Hey guys, I'm sorry this took so long, but I'm finally back here with part 4. We're basically just gonna be doing the same thing. We're gonna be going over people's stories on Reddit, mostly paranormal horror stories. I can't confirm if these stories are 100% true, but regardless, they're real and chilling, so sit back and relax, and let's get into it. I moved around a lot as a kid. We were the kind of family that would have boxes that would always go unopened and undisturbed between moves. My dad was a good guy, but had issues with authority, so he usually had trouble keeping a stable job for more than a year or so. When the lease was up, we had to move closer to his new job. Anyways, during one of these moves, my dad found a steal next to his job. It was an old 2-bedroom apartment, 1-bathroom house with a detached garage. I want to say it was around $300 a month for rent in 2003. Apparently, it was in a rough part of town. The landlord told us, I won't go into specifics, but I am required to tell you that someone has passed away in this house within the last 5 years. My dad saw a great deal and shrugged it off. We moved in soon after, and the thing started up very quickly. There were noises all in the house all the time. It was like we had other people living in there. It would generally be noises that you would expect when other people are around. Things like drawers opening on their own and closing, doors swinging around on their own, water turning on in the bathroom and then back off. Nothing malicious was happening, so we just lived with it. Another weird quirk about the house was the fact that the front door had a keyhole on both sides, so you could not leave the locked house unless you had the keys. You can probably guess where this is going. But not a week or so after I moved in, we lost the keys. There were boxes still littered in the house, and we were still in the unpacking hell. So my dad, obviously stressed from the whole situation, started getting loud about the keys. He accused me of stealing them. He was cursing and being a general pain. Then, out of nowhere, we hear the keys hit the floor in the living room, right in front of the couch, right onto the floor. He picks them up, trying to rationalize what just happened. But my dad just shrugged it off and left for work. Over the next few months, the stupid keys are the center of the activity. My dad would put them in a glass bowl on top of the TV every day after work, and somehow they would be moved by the morning. My favorite spot by far was when we found them in a sealed box of pots and plants that we needed to unpack. It had these little handle holes on the side of the box, and it's like someone just shoved them into the hole of the spite. Me and my dad got a good laugh out of that. But right now you're probably thinking, okay, what's spine chilling about some noises and some keys moving around? Well, here you go. The worst thing that happened frequently was the stomping. Most nights around 2 to 3 a.m., there would be a very heavy footsteps pacing in the hallway outside of our bedrooms. I confronted with my dad when I was older that yes, it kind of freaked him out too. We had been living there in this place for about 8 months, and at this point, I was probably around 8 years old. I heard the stomping one night, and I just couldn't take it. I screamed down the hallway, "Stop stomping around. I need to sleep." 15 seconds of silence was abruptly interrupted by what sounded like a bull running full speed to my room. Then, at my door, was 3 very aggressive slamming knocks one after another. It was so loud it woke my dad up, and he came to check on me. My stomach had started to turn, and I suddenly felt like I had to use the toilet. I was frozen in my bed when I heard my dad call out to me, "You okay, buddy?" from his bedroom. I mustered up the courage to head out to the hallway, and as I got up, I could tell something wasn't right. I was shaking like a leaf, and my bowels were trying to evaluate while I was walking. I ran as fast as I could to the toilet, but it didn't help. There was a trail about halfway between my bedroom and the toilet, and my poor dad, worried about my safety, followed me into the bathroom, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. I explained everything, crying on the toilet, making a mess of myself in the house. I was embarrassed and terrified. After this, my dad told me, if you ever feel uncomfortable, you can come in my room and sleep. Nothing can bug you when I'm around. The final straw came a week later. My dad had been dating a girl for over a year, and she had been coming over to stay with us more and more. One of the nights she stayed over, they had a really minor argument before bed. I think it was about cleaning and chores. Anyways, they both went to bed, grumpy about it. Right around the magic 2 to 3 a.m. mark, his girlfriend got yanked out of bed by one of her ankles and got dragged out of the bedroom and down the hallway by her account. She woke up after she was on the floor and felt something pulling on her leg, and it took a while to realize exactly what was happening. She shrieked, and whatever it was let go. She ran back into the bedroom and turned the lights on, and explained the whole thing to my dad. He sent me off to my aunt's house and stayed in the house alone for a few months while looking for another place to move. He figured it would be safer without me there during the packing and moving out of the house. My dad had some friends staying by to keep him company while he packed. Almost everyone who came by to help him mentioned that they saw a small white dog walking around when they entered the house. To this day, I'm convinced what happened in that house was completely paranormal. I still think about it from time to time. I wonder if the people who live there now deal with the same stuff, or if it's all calmed down. One night, a friend and I were hanging out behind Little Caesars, drinking as we were sobering up. She looked at me and asked if I wanted to see something crazy. I told her I absolutely did, and I was always out for seeing crazy shit. However, my friend wasn't the type to do anything above just taking pictures of stray cats doing stupid things. So I figured this is one of those videos. She pulled up her phone gallery, and on her iPhone she showed me an early photo of her and another girl during recess. I studied the photograph, trying to figure out what I was trying to look out for. I looked at her, confused, and shrugged. I was confused. She looked at me and asked if I memorized the photo. I told her I did. I just didn't know or understand what the meaning behind it was. She held up her hand to me and told me, wait. She began furiously scrolling through her camera roll, and she showed me the photo. It was a selfie with the same girl, looking disheveled, dirty, or like homeless. I slowly looked up at her, clenched my teeth. I asked her what this photo was about and what the meaning behind it was, and as I was ready to scold her over making fun of someone whose family was struggling during tough times, she began snickering, and I grew more impatient. She asked if I saw this picture, and I said I did. Well, it turns out my friend showed the teacher who she was close with the same photo she had showed me. The teacher was confused and troubled by the photo. When my friend asked why the teacher seemed so disturbed, the teacher asked when the photo was taken. My friend replied with the same day just seeing the photo. The teacher explained the girl in the photo was not supposed to be there. I theorized that the girl in the photo was dangerous and was not supposed to be there because she was expelled. And my friend paused and told me no, she had been dead for months. My first house was built in 1913. After moving in, I knew pretty much right away that I wasn't alone, because I would only see movement out the corner of my eye. I always smoked back then, and I came out the bedroom one morning to find my ashtray flipped over at the end of the table onto the floor. Lots of little things kept hanging over the years, but I never felt threatened or scared, meaning the ghost and I coexisted in the house with no issues. My boyfriend moved in, and a few years later we got married. I talked about these things, and he just looked at me, never saying too much about any of it. He traveled quite a bit for work, so I was home alone a lot. One night, I was on my computer listening to music and playing games. Then, plain as day, I was tapped from behind on the shoulder 3 times. I screamed and jumped up, turned around, and nothing was there. After experiencing that, I would always be terrified in my own house. I told my now husband about it, and then he started opening up about the shadows he see moving around in my office. He talked about the footsteps he hear in the house when he was alone. The tapping on my shoulder happened one other time after that, when we were moving out of the house, and it was pretty much empty. I was there cleaning up alone, and I heard the footsteps he was talking about. Whatever or whoever was there started to feel more menacing towards the end of our time there. I love that house, but I'm glad we left it. So one of my closest friends growing up lived in a house that was without a doubt haunted. The house was definitely somewhere around a century old, or at least now it is, and our town is situated in a very suburban neighborhood. Several of our friends had their own experiences there, and I had my own experience too. Honestly, it would be impossible to try and condense it down into one experience, and I believe it's worth sharing the accounts I can remember. I'll start with the least scary one, which was thankfully my own, and then move on to the ones worth telling. During high school, my parents went on a vacation for a few days. I stayed at this particular house of my friend. Let's call him Paul. I stayed in Paul's room in a sleeping bag on the floor while he slept in his bed. One morning, I woke up to something whispering in my ear, like directly in my ear. Then, I realized it was whispering my name. It told me to leave now. It didn't say it super maliciously, almost more of a warning. It definitely woke me up though, and immediately I thought Paul was fucking with me, as he frequently did. But then, I turned over to my side and saw that Paul was sleeping. Then, I realized Paul was completely knocked out. I said "what" to him, thinking he was joking around, but he didn't wake up. He was definitely asleep. It was quiet and too still, too early, for even Paul's parents to be up. Then it hit me, as it still hits me today. I heard the whisper in my left ear, and Paul was on my right side. Paul had other experiences in the same room, a few I can remember off the top of my head. For a time, he told me that he suffered from sleep paralysis on a consistent basis. He would see demons in his room and would be unable to move. He told me that very frequently in his sleep, the standing fan by his bed would become a demon girl and would wake him up with a jolt of adrenaline, having punched or thrown the fan down to the ground. He told me that he would sometimes see someone standing in the closet his bed faced, both asleep and awake. Oddly enough, his sleep paralysis significantly decreased as soon as he moved out of the place. That floor, the second floor where Paul, his parents, and 2 of his 4 sisters slept, was spooky. I remember getting weird feelings up there. One of his sisters claimed to see the ghost of a little boy in their bathroom. His mom once opened her closet in her bedroom and found the same little boy standing there looking up at her and asking for his mother. I heard about that one when I was in middle school, and it always creeped me out. It was always the scariest when the adults see them too. Before my own experience, I generally thought Paul was just trying to fuck with me and would tell me about these experiences. Most of our friends were the same way, thinking Paul was just full of shit. Even after my own experience, at times, I thought I just could as easily dreamt it up. But then, a few of those same friends, some of them complete non-believers beforehand, had their own experiences, and that changed the whole idea of the house. Once a year, Paul and his family would take a trip and have someone take care of their 2 dogs. One of our mutual friends came over to do just that one day. When she got there that evening to feed the dogs, the house was dark and empty. For some context, the dogs were being fed near the kitchen, and adjacent to the kitchen was the dining room, which led further into the entryway, and after that, a small living room. Well, not long after feeding the dogs, she heard a blood-curdling scream. A shriek coming from the living room, like someone was inside it with her. She booked it outside with the dogs, checked for intruders, and saw no one in there. I'm pretty sure after that she called Paul and told him what happened. But Paul just shrugged it off and said, yeah, that shit happens like every time. A couple of years later, one of our biggest doubters in our group, who thought we were all full of shit, had his own experience. Paul hosted a fair amount of parties back then, and we usually would have him in his basement to avoid any sort of noise complaints. So all of us were in the basement having a good time, and this particular friend of ours decided to run upstairs and grab another drink. Mind you, this friend is not the kind of guy to get completely fucked up. Like, he'll only have 1 or 2 beers at most. So for all intents and purposes, he is sober. He goes up to the ground floor, which was completely empty as everyone is in the basement. There was a porch leading directly to outside, across the back way of the house. As our friend was walking into the dining room to grab a beer off the table, he sees a tall, grim-looking woman standing on the porch outside, looking through the window directly at him. He knows something is wrong because she does not have any type of features at all, and also standing outside by herself, looking inside. He takes his eyes off her for one moment and looks back, and she's gone. A few days later, he tells Paul about what happened, and Paul informs him that him and his sister have seen the same woman. After that friend became a believer. At the top of the house, there were 2 small bedrooms, both belonging to Paul's older sisters. This is the last one I will share, as it's the one that has stuck with me for the longest. The second older sister once had a very vivid and intense dream in which she herself was being exorcised. A demon was being forced out of her as the group of priests were standing over her convulsing body, shouting verses at her, and she remembered it being crazy intense. After enduring this for some time, she suddenly jolts herself awake and yells out. And at that precise moment, a rosemary she kept hanging on her wall flies from its place, crashing to the floor, and shatters into a bunch of pieces, completely on its own. She was covered in sweat and completely terrified. No one else was in the room. To this day, I still know that something was seriously wrong with that house. There's not a doubt in my mind that what happened in that house was completely demonic. And to this day, I'll never forget that dead, ghostly voice whispering in my ear at 7 o'clock in the morning.